I'm so happy you're here with me tonight. You've settled into Science Blanket, your sanctuary for the gentle and the deep. Have you ever rested your hand on a sleeping cat and felt like you were touching the engine of a slow-motion dream? Tonight, we're wrapping ourselves in the science of the soothing, specifically the mysterious, healing frequency of the cat's purr. We often think of it as a simple sign of happiness, but it is actually a ghost of the breath, trillions of rhythmic vibrations suspended in a delicate balance between the muscles of the throat and the calm of the nervous system. From the high, airy chirps of contentment that feel like pulled silk to the heavy, low-frequency rumbles that bring the weight of deep repair, the purr is the visible signature of the body's invisible healing. As we begin, imagine yourself surrounded by a soft, rhythmic warmth, feeling as safe and relaxed as a cat in a patch of afternoon sun. You don't need to understand the physics of laryngeal oscillation or the names of the bone density frequencies tonight. Just let the slow, steady vibration of the evening tuck you in. Now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel your lungs expand and then empty, as effortless as a rhythmic hum. Let the weight of your day soften and dissolve into the quiet room. Relax your jaw, let your shoulders drop, and sink into the softness of your bed. Let's explore the quiet wonders of why cats purr together. Close your eyes and imagine the sound. That soft, rhythmic rumble that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. A cat curled in your lap, eyes half closed, producing a sound so soothing it feels like it's vibrating through your very bones. But where does this mysterious sound actually come from? The answer lies hidden deep within the cat's throat, in a small but remarkable structure called the larynx. This is where the magic happens, where biology transforms into that gentle hum we've come to associate with contentment and comfort. The larynx itself is an elegant piece of natural engineering. Inside this tiny space, specialized muscles work in concert with something scientists call a neural oscillator. Think of it as a biological metronome, a built-in rhythm keeper that exists within the cat's nervous system. This oscillator sends precise, timed signals that cause the muscles around the glottis to contract and release in rapid succession. The glottis, that small opening between the vocal cords, becomes the instrument through which the purr emerges. It opens and closes, dozens of times every single second, creating a pattern so fast and so consistent that it produces that continuous, rolling sound we recognize instantly. But the story begins even before the larynx springs into action. It starts in the brain itself, in neural pathways that remain somewhat mysterious even to researchers who have spent years studying feline behavior. A signal originates there, a command sent down through the nervous system like a message traveling along ancient pathways. This signal reaches the laryngeal muscles, and suddenly, they begin their rapid dance. Dozens of vibrations per second. The speed is astonishing when you really think about it. Your cat isn't consciously controlling each individual vibration. Instead, that initial brain signal sets the whole process in motion, like winding up a music box and letting the mechanism do the rest. The glottis itself becomes the focal point of this entire operation. As it constricts around the vocal cords, something beautiful happens. Air passing through this narrowed space begins to vibrate. And here's what makes purring so different from other sounds cats make. This vibration occurs with every single breath. When your cat breathes in, the air vibrates. When your cat breathes out, the air vibrates. There's no pause, no interruption in the sound. It's a continuous loop of gentle oscillation that can last for minutes, sometimes even hours if your cat is particularly content. What makes this even more fascinating is that cats accomplish all of this with their mouths completely closed. Unlike meowing or hissing or any of the other vocalizations in their repertoire, purring doesn't require an open mouth. The sound is produced entirely within the throat, traveling through the body and emanating outward like ripples on a still pond. You can feel it when you touch your cat, that gentle tremor that seems to pulse through their entire frame. It's there on the inhale, and it's there on the exhale, a perfect symmetry of sound and sensation. The diaphragm plays its own crucial role in this symphony. This large, dome-shaped muscle sits below the lungs and is responsible for breathing. During purring, the diaphragm maintains its steady rhythm, helping to sustain the continuous nature of the sound even as breathing cycles shift and change. Cats don't have to breathe slower or faster to purr. They don't have to take deeper breaths or shallow ones. The diaphragm adjusts, compensating and supporting, ensuring that whether your cat is relaxed and breathing slowly or slightly more active with quicker breaths, that purr continues uninterrupted. It's a remarkable coordination of systems, each one supporting the others in perfect harmony. Perhaps one of the most striking discoveries about purring came from veterinary observations. When cats are placed under anesthesia for medical procedures, something unexpected happens. Even in this unconscious state, even when the cat is completely unaware of its surroundings, the purr continues. This revelation told researchers something profound about the nature of purring. It's not entirely dependent on conscious thought or emotional state. Those neural oscillators we mentioned earlier, those biological rhythm keepers, they keep functioning even when the conscious mind has shut down. The signal continues its pattern, the muscles continue their rapid contractions, and the purr persists. It's as if purring exists on a more fundamental level of the cat's being, hardwired into the nervous system in a way that transcends simple voluntary control. The vocal cords themselves hold another secret to this gentle sound. Embedded within them are fibrous pads, specialized structures that enable something rather extraordinary. Purring happens at very low frequencies, usually between 25 and 50 Hertz. Creating such low-frequency sounds typically requires precise, intricate muscle control. Yet cats seem to produce these sounds almost effortlessly. Those fibrous pads are the key. They allow the vocal cords to vibrate at these low frequencies without requiring the cat to maintain perfect, constant muscle tension. It's an elegant solution to what could otherwise be a physiologically demanding task. The pads do much of the work, letting the purr emerge with what seems like barely any effort at all. In many ways, purring is what scientists call a passive oscillation. Once that initial signal arrives from the brain, once those laryngeal muscles receive their marching orders, the rest unfolds almost automatically. The muscles begin their rapid dance, the glottis starts opening and closing, and momentum takes over. It's similar to pushing a child on a swing. You provide that first push, that initial energy, and then the swing continues moving back and forth, needing only occasional small nudges to maintain the motion. The cat's body, once the purr begins, maintains it with minimal ongoing effort. The system, once activated, sustains itself through the natural physics of vibration and airflow. For many years, scientists proposed different theories about how cats purr. Some believed it had to do with blood flow, that turbulent blood moving through major vessels in the chest somehow created the sound. Researchers imagined rapid pulses of blood creating vibrations that resonated through the body and emerged as that familiar rumble. It was an intriguing idea, one that seemed to explain the continuous nature of the sound and its deep, internal quality. But as research techniques improved, as scientists were able to examine cats more closely and measure what was actually happening inside their bodies during purring, this theory fell apart. The blood flow explanation simply didn't match the observable reality. The sound wasn't coming from the chest cavity. It was coming from the throat, from those rapidly vibrating structures in the larynx. Other historical theories proved equally unfounded. Some researchers proposed that cats possessed a unique organ, some specialized structure that existed solely for the purpose of purring. The idea held a certain romantic appeal. After all, purring is such a distinctive sound, so unlike anything other animals produce. Surely it required special equipment, a biological innovation found only in cats. But again, careful anatomical studies revealed the truth. There is no purring organ. There's nothing in a cat's body that doesn't exist in similar forms in other animals. The larynx, the vocal cords, the muscles, the neural pathways, these are all standard mammalian equipment. What makes cats special isn't that they have different parts. It's that they use ordinary parts in an extraordinary way, creating something unique through the precise coordination of common biological structures. And so we return to that sound, that gentle rumble that has puzzled humans for centuries. Now you know its origins, the complex dance of neurons and muscles, of oscillations and vibrations, that produces something so simple and so soothing. The next time your cat curls up beside you and begins to purr, you'll understand the hidden machinery at work. The signal traveling from brain to throat. The muscles contracting dozens of times per second. The air vibrating on every breath. The diaphragm supporting and sustaining. All of it happening beneath the surface, invisible and effortless, creating that healing frequency that has comforted humans and cats alike since our species first came together. It's a small miracle of biology, playing out moment by moment, breath by breath, in the quiet spaces where we and our cats find peace together. The frequency of a purr tells its own story, a tale written not in words but in vibrations that ripple through the air and through our fingertips when we touch a purring cat. Scientists measure sound in units called Hertz, which simply count how many times per second a sound wave cycles through its pattern. Most cat purrs exist in a range between 25 and 150 Hertz. This is a relatively low frequency in the grand scheme of sounds. For comparison, middle C on a piano vibrates at about 260 Hertz. The lowest note on a standard guitar sits around 82 Hertz. So when your cat purrs, they're operating in the deeper registers of sound, creating something that exists closer to a rumble than a tone, closer to thunder heard from far away than to music played nearby. But cats, being the individuals they are, don't all confine themselves to these average ranges. Some cats push the boundaries of what we might expect. There are cats whose purrs climb above 160 Hertz, reaching into frequencies that start to sound less like the traditional purr and more like something else entirely. These higher frequency purrs can have a different quality to them, a lighter, perhaps more insistent character. They still carry that essential purr-like nature, that rolling, continuous quality, but they occupy a different space in the sonic landscape. It's a reminder that while we can speak in generalities about cat behavior and cat sounds, each individual animal brings their own variation to the theme. At the lower end of the spectrum, something interesting happens with perception. When a cat purrs at very low pitches, especially those purrs hovering around 25 to 30 Hertz, we often experience them more through touch than through hearing. You might sit with a cat in your lap and realize you're feeling the purr more than you're hearing it. Your fingers detect the gentle tremor moving through the cat's body. Your leg registers the rhythmic vibration. But your ears, those organs tuned to detect sound waves traveling through air, might barely register that anything is happening at all. This is because human hearing has its limits. We're not particularly sensitive to very low frequencies. Sounds below about 20 Hz typically escape our notice entirely, and even frequencies in the 20s and 30s can be difficult for us to hear clearly, especially if there's any background noise. But we can feel them. Our sense of touch picks up vibrations that our ears might miss, and so the purr becomes as much a tactile experience as an auditory one. In terms of volume, purring is remarkably quiet. The average cat's purr measures around 25 decibels. To put that in perspective, that's roughly equivalent to a whisper shared between two people standing close together. It's the sound of leaves rustling in a gentle breeze, or paper sliding across a desk. This softness is part of what makes purring so intimate, so personal. Unlike a meow, which can carry across a room or even through walls, a purr is meant for close contact. It's a sound you experience when you're near the cat, when you're touching them or holding them or sitting quietly beside them. The low volume creates a bubble of closeness, a private communication between cat and companion that doesn't intrude on the wider world. Yet despite this softness, despite the whisper-like quality of the sound, the vibrations of purring extend throughout the cat's entire body. If you place your hand on a purring cat's back, you'll feel it there. Touch their side, their chest, even their head, and that gentle tremor is present everywhere. The vibration that begins in the larynx doesn't stay localized. It travels outward, spreading through muscle and bone and tissue, until the cat's whole body becomes a single unified instrument of gentle oscillation. This is part of what makes petting a purring cat so satisfying. You're not just hearing a pleasant sound. You're feeling it, experiencing it through multiple senses at once, creating a richer, more complete sensory experience. The intensity and duration of purring aren't fixed constants. They shift and change depending on the cat's arousal level, their emotional state, their level of engagement with the world around them. A cat just waking from sleep might produce a soft, drowsy purr, gentle and intermittent. That same cat, excited about an approaching meal or greeting a beloved person after a long absence, might purr with greater intensity, the sound slightly louder, the vibrations more pronounced. A cat in pain or distress might purr with a particular quality, something different from contentment, using the purr as a form of self-soothing or communication. And a deeply relaxed cat, utterly at peace, might settle into a purr that continues for minutes on end, steady and unchanging, a meditation made audible. These variations tell us that purring isn't a simple on-off switch. It's a nuanced form of expression, adjustable and responsive to internal and external circumstances. Research suggests that each cat's purr might be as individual as a human fingerprint. The exact pattern of vibrations, the specific combination of frequency, rhythm, and intensity appears to vary from cat to cat. If you live with multiple cats, you might have noticed this yourself. One cat's purr might be deeper, throatier, more of a rumble. Another's might be lighter, faster, with a slight trill to it. A third might purr so quietly you can barely hear it, while a fourth announces their contentment with a purr that fills the room. These individual variations arise from subtle differences in anatomy, in the size and shape of the larynx, in the thickness of vocal cords, in the particular way each cat's neural oscillator times its signals. Just as no two human voices sound exactly alike, no two cats purr in precisely the same way. Some of these frequency variations dip below the threshold of human hearing entirely. There are components of a cat's purr that we cannot hear at all, no matter how quiet the room or how carefully we listen. But we can feel them. These inaudible frequencies still create physical vibrations that travel through the cat's body and into ours when we're in contact. It's an odd thought, isn't it? That there are aspects of purring happening right in front of us, or rather right beneath our hands, that exist in a realm beyond our auditory perception. It suggests that purring might have dimensions we're only beginning to understand, that when we experience a purring cat, we're encountering something richer and more complex than our conscious awareness fully registers. The sound quality of a purr has often been compared to specific familiar sounds. Many people describe it as a soft buzzing, reminiscent of a distant motor or a small engine running smoothly. Others hear it as similar to the rolled R sound found in languages like Spanish or Italian, that trilling quality that comes from rapid vibration of the tongue. Both comparisons capture something essential about the purr. It's a continuous sound made up of rapid individual pulses, so quick that they blend together into what seems like a single sustained note. The buzzing, rolling, trilling quality comes from those dozens of vibrations per second in the larynx, each individual opening and closing of the glottis contributing to the overall texture of the sound. What's particularly remarkable about purring is how stable the rhythm remains throughout the breathing cycle. Breathing, after all, is not a smooth, continuous process. It's a cycle of inhales and exhales, each phase distinct from the other. During inhalation, air flows into the lungs, the chest expands, the diaphragm moves downward. During exhalation, everything reverses. Air flows out, the chest contracts, the diaphragm rises. These are opposite movements, opposite flows of air, and yet the purr continues essentially unchanged through both phases. The rhythm doesn't speed up during the inhale and slow down during the exhale. It doesn't get louder in one phase and quieter in the other. It remains remarkably consistent, that same steady pulse maintained regardless of whether air is moving into the lungs or out of them. This stability is a testament to the sophisticated coordination happening in the cat's throat, where those rapidly contracting muscles maintain their pace independent of the changing airflow patterns around them. Understanding these physical characteristics of purring, the frequencies and volumes and patterns, brings us closer to appreciating what an elegant piece of natural engineering it truly represents. It's not just that cats can make this sound. It's that they can make it so efficiently, so consistently, so effortlessly. They can maintain it across long periods while doing other things, while eating or grooming or simply resting. They can modulate it to reflect their emotional state while keeping its fundamental character intact. They can produce something that operates at the edge of human perception, something we experience as much through touch as through hearing, something that varies between individuals while maintaining a recognizable signature that says, unmistakably, this is a cat. And they do all of this with a few small muscles, some vibrating tissue, and a biological rhythm keeper ticking away in the nervous system, creating that healing frequency that has captivated humans for thousands of years. Life begins in darkness and silence for a newborn kitten. Their eyes are sealed shut, their ears folded closed against their head. They cannot see the world around them, cannot hear their mother's footsteps or the sounds of their littermates. And yet, within just a few days of entering this world, something remarkable happens. They begin to purr. This tiny creature, no bigger than a human hand, barely able to crawl, already possesses one of the most sophisticated communication tools in the animal kingdom. The purr emerges early, so early that it seems less like a learned behavior and more like an instinct hardwired into the very blueprint of what it means to be a cat. Think about what this means. A kitten purrs before they can see, before they can hear, before they have any real understanding of their environment or their place in it. The purr is among the very first ways they interact with the world, one of the earliest forms of communication available to them. It's there from almost the beginning, a gift from evolution, a tool for survival that requires no learning, no practice, no conscious understanding. The neural pathways are already in place, those oscillators already ticking away in the nervous system, ready to activate as soon as the kitten draws their first breaths. This early emergence of purring serves a crucial purpose in the vulnerable first days of life. Kittens are born essentially helpless. They depend entirely on their mother for warmth, for food, for protection from dangers they cannot yet perceive. They need to stay close to her, to let her know where they are, to maintain contact that could mean the difference between life and death. But they exist in a world where loud noises could attract predators, where crying out might bring danger rather than safety. The purr solves this problem with elegant simplicity. It's a way to signal location and state without broadcasting that information to every potential threat in the area. The purr is quiet. Remember, just 25 decibels on average. It doesn't carry far. A mother cat can hear and feel her purring kittens when she's close to them, but a predator prowling nearby might pass by without noticing those soft vibrations, those gentle rumbles that speak of life and need in the nest. Mother cats understand this language instinctively. When their kittens purr, they respond. They know their babies are there, that they're alive, that they're seeking comfort or food or warmth. And the mother has her own response, her own way of using this same tool for communication and care. She purrs back. A mother cat will purr to her kittens, creating a sound environment that has a remarkable calming effect. Those tiny bodies, so new to existence, relax when they hear and feel that familiar vibration. Their heart rate slow. Their stress responses quiet. The mother's purr becomes a blanket of sound and sensation, wrapping around her offspring and telling them, without words, that they are safe, that she is here, that all is well in their small world. This exchange of purrs does more than just communicate location and safety. It builds something deeper. The bond between mother and kitten strengthens with each purring session, each nursing period filled with that dual vibration of mother and babies purring together. This is how trust forms, how attachment develops in these early days. The kittens learn that the source of this particular purr means food and warmth and protection. The mother learns to recognize the individual purrs of her kittens, to distinguish between them even when they sound similar to human ears. These are the foundations of feline social bonds being laid down in those first days and weeks, built on a platform of shared vibration. The mother's purring serves another function that researchers have only more recently come to understand. During birth itself, during those intense hours of labor, mother cats often purr. At first glance, this seems almost paradoxical. Birth is stressful, painful, demanding enormous physical effort. Why would an animal in such a state produce a sound we associate with contentment and relaxation? The answer appears to lie in purring's remarkable ability to provide pain relief. That low-frequency vibration, traveling through the body, may trigger the release of endorphins, the body's natural pain-reducing chemicals. The mother cat, perhaps through instinct rather than conscious choice, uses her own purring as a form of self-medication, a way to manage the intensity of birth. And simultaneously, she's preparing her kittens for their first experience of the world. They emerge into an environment already filled with that healing frequency, their first moments of life accompanied by the sound and sensation that will become central to their existence. As kittens grow into cats, as they mature and develop and eventually leave their mother to make their own way in the world, the purr doesn't disappear. It doesn't fade away as a relic of kittenhood, discarded like baby teeth or the need for constant maternal supervision. Instead, it continues throughout the cat's entire life. An elderly cat of 15 or 20 years will still purr, using the same mechanism they used as a 3-day-old kitten. This continuity is unusual in animal behavior. Many juvenile behaviors disappear as animals mature, replaced by adult patterns that serve different purposes. But purring persists, suggesting that its usefulness extends far beyond those early weeks of life. In fact, adult cats retain many kitten-like purring behaviors well into maturity. This is part of a broader pattern scientists call neoteny, the retention of juvenile characteristics into adulthood. Domestic cats, living alongside humans, often behave in ways that wild adult cats would not. They remain more playful, more social, more vocal. And they continue to purr in situations that mirror those early kitten experiences. When an adult cat purrs while being petted by their human companion, they're essentially recreating the dynamic of a kitten nursing from their mother. The stroking motion of a human hand triggers some of the same neural pathways that were activated by maternal grooming. The cat's response, that deep, satisfied purr, echoes back to those first experiences of comfort and care. Many adult cats purr during eating, especially if they're eating something they particularly enjoy. This behavior connects directly to nursing, to those early meals taken while pressed against the mother's warm belly, purring steadily while milk flows. The association between eating and purring, formed in those first weeks of life, remains active years later. A cat with a bowl of their favorite food may purr between bites, the sound rising and falling as they alternate between eating and expressing satisfaction, recreating in some essential way the experience of the nursing kitten they once were. The persistence of purring throughout life, the way it remains central to feline communication and self-care from birth to old age, suggests something about its evolutionary origins. Researchers believe that purring likely evolved from the early suckling communication between kittens and mothers. Those first purrs, signaling location and need, requesting care and receiving comfort, were so successful as a survival strategy that natural selection preserved and elaborated on them. Over countless generations, the purr became more than just a kitten's tool. It expanded to serve adult functions as well, to facilitate bonding with companions, to provide self-soothing in stressful situations, to communicate complex emotional states. But at its heart, purring retains that original purpose, that ancient function of connecting vulnerable young to protective parents, of creating safety through sound, of building bonds through shared vibration. When you hear an adult cat purr, then you're hearing something that reaches back through millions of years of feline evolution. You're hearing an echo of kittens in the nest, of mothers comforting their young, of the very first cats learning to use this remarkable tool for survival and connection. The purr your cat produces today carries within it all those ancient purposes, all those millennia of refinement and development. It's a living link to the past, a sound that has barely changed even as cats themselves evolved and diversified, even as they spread across the world and adapted to countless different environments. Through all those changes, through all that time, the purr remained constant and essential, a healing frequency that connects every cat back to their first days of life, back to their mother's warmth, back to the very beginning of their story. We tend to think of purring as a simple expression of happiness, and often it is exactly that. A cat stretched out in a patch of warm sunlight, eyes half closed in blissful relaxation, purring steadily as the afternoon drifts by. A cat curled in their favorite spot on the sofa, that particular cushion they've claimed as their own, body completely relaxed, purring in contentment. These are the images that come to mind when we think about why cats purr. They're in familiar, safe environments where they feel utterly at ease. The purr in these moments seems straightforward, a sonic manifestation of comfort, a way of saying without words that all is right in their world. Eating often triggers this same contented purr. Some cats begin purring the moment they hear the food bowl being prepared, the sound intensifying as they eat, creating a curious combination of chewing and vibrating that somehow doesn't interfere with either activity. It's a celebration of satisfaction, a response to having needs met, to the pleasure of a good meal. And rest brings out purring as well. A cat settling down for a nap might purr for several minutes as they arrange themselves, as they knead and turn and finally collapse into their chosen sleeping position. The purr gradually fades as they drift towards sleep, that gentle vibration easing them into unconsciousness like a lullaby they sing to themselves. But here's where our understanding of purring becomes more complex, more interesting, and perhaps more profound. Cats also purr when they're frightened, when they're anxious, when nothing about their current situation suggests comfort or contentment. A cat cornered by a dog might purr. A cat lost in an unfamiliar place might purr. A cat facing something that terrifies them might purr steadily even as their body shows every other sign of fear, ears flattened, pupils dilated, body tensed for flight. This seems contradictory at first. Why would an animal use the same signal for both extreme comfort and extreme distress? The answer lies in understanding that purring isn't just communication. It's also a tool for self-regulation, a way cats manage their own internal states. Think of purring as a self-soothing mechanism, something similar to how humans might rock back and forth when upset, or take deep breaths to calm themselves, or hum quietly in moments of stress. The act of purring appears to have a calming effect on the cat producing it. Those low-frequency vibrations traveling through the body may trigger neurological and physiological responses that help reduce stress hormones, that promote a sense of calm even in circumstances that are anything but calm. A frightened cat purring isn't lying about their emotional state. They're attempting to manage it, using a tool evolution has provided for exactly this purpose. This becomes particularly apparent during vet visits. Many veterinarians report that cats purr during examinations, sometimes loudly enough to make it difficult to listen to their heart and lungs with a stethoscope. These cats aren't necessarily happy to be at the vet. They're in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by strange smells, being handled by someone they may not know well, possibly experiencing discomfort from whatever condition brought them to the clinic in the first place. The purring in this context serves as a coping mechanism, a way to self-regulate in a situation that feels threatening or overwhelming. The cat is, in essence, trying to calm themselves down, using the same tool they'd used during a peaceful afternoon at home, but deploying it now in service of emotional survival rather than the expression of contentment. Even more striking is the phenomenon of injured cats purring. A cat with broken bones might purr. A cat who has been in an accident, suffering from trauma, might purr as they lie still, unable to move. Initially, this behavior puzzled researchers and veterinarians. It seemed almost perverse that an animal in obvious pain would produce a sound associated with well-being. But as our understanding of purring has deepened, this behavior has begun to make sense. The purring cat isn't denying their pain. They're trying to manage it. They're activating a system that may help with pain relief, that may promote healing, that at the very least provides some psychological comfort in a moment of extreme physical distress. It's one of the most poignant examples of purring's complexity, seeing this behavior emerge not from happiness but from a desperate need for self-comfort. Illness brings out purring with increased frequency in many cats. A cat who doesn't normally purr much might suddenly become a constant purrer when they are sick. Again, this isn't a sign that they're feeling good. It's a sign that they're feeling bad and are trying to do something about it. The purr becomes more frequent because the need for its soothing effects has increased. The cat is using every tool at their disposal to feel better, to cope with the discomfort of illness, to perhaps even aid in their own healing. There's emerging evidence that the specific frequencies of purring might actually promote bone density and tissue repair, though this research is still in its early stages. Whether or not purring directly aids physical healing, it clearly serves a psychological function during illness, helping cats maintain some equilibrium when their bodies are struggling. Perhaps the most profound example of purring's role as self-comfort comes in a cat's final hours. Cats who are dying often purr, sometimes more intensely than they have in years. This can be confusing and even heartbreaking for humans who love them, who might interpret the purr as a sign of comfort or peace when the cat is actually in the process of leaving life. But in another sense, perhaps it is a kind of peace, not the peace of contentment but the peace of self-soothing, of using every tool available to ease the transition from life to death. The cat purrs because it's what they know to do in moments of stress, in moments when comfort is needed. It's a final act of self-care, a last use of that healing frequency they've carried with them since their first days of life. During normal, healthy rest periods, purring serves what behaviorists call a maintenance function. A cat lying quietly might purr on and off for no apparent external reason. They are not being petted. They are not eating. They're not in any obvious distress. This kind of purring seems to be about maintaining optimal internal states, about keeping stress levels manageable, about promoting general well-being. It's similar to how humans might engage in small self-care behaviors throughout the day, stretching, yawning, taking a moment to breathe deeply. The cat purrs not because something has made them purr, but because purring itself serves a purpose in maintaining their physical and psychological health. Purring also functions as a social signal, particularly in interactions where the cat wants to communicate that they're not a threat. When two cats meet, if one of them purrs, they're essentially saying they come in peace. The purr signals friendliness, approachability, a lack of aggressive intent. This is why cats often purr when approaching humans, when seeking attention or interaction. They're using the purr to communicate that the interaction is or should be peaceful, that they're open to contact, that there's no danger in this encounter. It's a remarkably effective signal because it's so difficult to fake. The physiological process of purring doesn't align well with the body's state during genuine aggression. A purring cat is, in almost all cases, not about to attack. They're opening themselves to connection, whether they're doing so from a place of contentment or from a place of seeking comfort in a stressful moment. Understanding that purring serves all these different functions, that it can mean so many different things depending on context, transforms how we interpret this common behavior. The purr isn't a simple happiness indicator. It's a sophisticated tool that cats use throughout their lives in a variety of situations, for a variety of purposes. It's communication and self-care, social signal and internal regulation, expression of joy and coping mechanism for pain. A cat stretched in the sun purring and a cat at the vet purring are using the same behavior for very different reasons, but both are using it in ways that serve their needs in that moment. This complexity makes purring even more remarkable than we might have thought, revealing it as one of the most versatile and essential behaviors in the feline repertoire, a healing frequency that serves cats in good times and bad, in health and illness, from their first breath to their last. The healing frequency. We've used these words to describe purring, but now we arrive at what may be the most astonishing aspect of this behavior. Purring doesn't just communicate. It doesn't just soothe emotions or signal intent. It actually appears to heal. The vibrations that travel through a cat's body when they purr have physical effects that go beyond psychology, beyond mere comfort, into the realm of actual biological repair and maintenance. This is where purring reveals itself as something truly extraordinary, a behavior that serves not just social or emotional needs but fundamental physiological ones. The key lies in those frequencies we discussed earlier, those vibrations occurring between 25 and 150 Hertz. These aren't random numbers. This range happens to coincide with frequencies that research has shown can promote bone strength and tissue healing. Medical science has known for some time that mechanical vibration at certain frequencies can have therapeutic effects on the body. Whole-body vibration therapy is used in human medicine to help maintain bone density in people who can't exercise normally, such as astronauts returning from long periods in zero gravity or elderly patients with mobility issues. The frequencies used in these therapies? Often between 20 and 50 Hertz. Right in the range of a cat's purr. Different frequencies within the purring range appear to support different types of healing. Lower frequencies, those in the 25 to 50 Hertz range, seem particularly effective for bone repair and bone density maintenance. These vibrations stress the bone tissue in subtle ways that encourage the bone to strengthen itself, to maintain density, to repair microfractures before they become serious breaks. Higher frequencies in the purring range, those between 100 and 200 Hertz that some cats produce, may be more effective for soft tissue healing, for the repair of muscles, tendons, and ligaments. The cat, through natural variation in their purr, may be applying a range of therapeutic frequencies to their own body, a sort of built-in physical therapy that happens automatically whenever they settle down to rest. The mechanism involves more than just mechanical vibration, though that's certainly part of it. Purring also appears to trigger the release of endorphins, those natural chemicals the body produces that act as pain relievers and mood elevators. When a cat purrs, their brain releases these substances, flooding their system with natural painkillers that make discomfort more bearable and promoting a sense of well-being that helps with healing. This explains why injured cats purr, why sick cats purr, why cats in pain purr. They are not just trying to feel better emotionally. They're literally medicating themselves, using their own body's pharmacy to manufacture relief. The effects on bone density are particularly fascinating. Cats are remarkable for maintaining healthy bones despite spending enormous amounts of time at rest. Most mammals need regular weight-bearing exercise to maintain bone strength. Prolonged inactivity leads to bone loss, to weakening of the skeletal structure. Yet cats, who may sleep 15 or 20 hours a day, maintain strong, healthy bones throughout their lives. The purr may be a significant part of why. Those hours of rest aren't entirely passive. They're accompanied by purring, and that purring provides low-frequency vibration that mimics some of the bone-strengthening effects of exercise. The cat lying motionless in a sunny spot isn't just resting. They're maintaining their skeletal health, using vibration to keep their bones strong even in the absence of significant physical activity. Wound healing appears to accelerate in purring cats. While this is difficult to study rigorously in controlled conditions, veterinarians have long noted that cats seem to recover from surgery and injury somewhat faster than might be expected. Wounds close more quickly. Broken bones knit together efficiently. Post-operative recovery periods can be shorter than in comparable animals. While many factors contribute to healing rates, the constant self-administration of therapeutic vibration through purring likely plays a role. The cat recovering from an injury isn't just lying still and letting time do its work. They're actively participating in their own healing, their purr providing continuous vibration therapy to damaged tissues. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes remarkable sense. Cats evolved as predators who needed to be capable of intense bursts of activity, chasing prey, climbing, fighting when necessary. But they also evolved to conserve energy between these bursts, to rest as much as possible to avoid unnecessary calorie expenditure. A behavior that allows for health maintenance during rest, that keeps bones strong and tissues healthy without requiring active exercise, would be tremendously advantageous. Purring may have evolved precisely as this kind of low-energy health maintenance strategy, a way for cats to stay physically fit even during their long periods of inactivity. The cat who can heal themselves through rest, who can maintain bone density while sleeping, has a significant survival advantage over one who cannot. But the healing frequency doesn't stop with the cat. Humans exposed to purring report effects on their own well-being. The vibrations we feel when we hold a purring cat, the sound we hear when they're near us, these have measurable impacts on human stress levels. Studies have shown that petting a purring cat can lower blood pressure, reduce heart rate, decrease cortisol levels, all markers of reduced stress. Some of this is certainly due to the general effects of interacting with animals, the psychological comfort of companionship and affection. But there's reason to believe the purr itself contributes something specific, that those particular frequencies have direct physiological effects on humans just as they do on cats. The purr induces a sense of calmness in many people who experience it. There's something about that low rumble, felt as much as heard, that seems to reach into the nervous system and flip a switch toward relaxation. People describe feeling their shoulders drop, their breathing slow, their racing thoughts quiet down when they're with a purring cat. This isn't just imagination or wishful thinking. The vibration and sound are actually affecting their physiology, triggering relaxation responses in the nervous system. The frequency that evolved to help cats heal themselves turns out to be a frequency that promotes calm and well-being in humans as well, as if we're tuned to respond to these particular vibrations in ways that benefit us. Some people go further, reporting what they believe are actual healing benefits from exposure to cat purrs. These reports are anecdotal rather than scientifically proven, but they're common enough to be worth noting. People claim that time spent with purring cats helps them recover from illness more quickly, reduces their pain levels, even speeds the healing of injuries. While we should be cautious about making definitive medical claims based on personal testimonies, it's not unreasonable to think that the same frequencies that benefit cats might have some positive effects on human tissues as well. Our bones and soft tissues aren't fundamentally different from cat bones and tissues. If vibration at 25 to 50 Hertz promotes healing in one mammal, it might well have similar effects in another. Perhaps most importantly, purring reinforces the bond between cats and the humans who care for them. When a cat purrs in your presence, especially when they purr in response to your touch or your voice, something strengthens between you. Part of this is psychological, the sense of being trusted and valued by another creature. But part of it may be physiological, the shared experience of those healing vibrations creating a kind of synchrony between human and cat. You both benefit from the purr, you both feel its calming effects, and this shared experience of well-being becomes associated with each other's presence. The cat learns that being near you, being touched by you, brings both social reward and physical comfort. You learn that being near the cat, interacting with them, provides stress relief and peace. The purr becomes the medium through which this mutual benefit is both delivered and reinforced. This is the healing frequency at its most complete. Not just a sound, not just a vibration, but a biological tool that promotes health and well-being across species boundaries. A behavior that evolved millions of years ago to help young kittens stay safe, that developed into a mechanism for self-healing and health maintenance, that now serves to connect cats and humans in relationships that benefit both parties. The purr that begins in a cat's larynx, that travels through their body strengthening bones and healing tissues, extends outward into the world and touches the lives of anyone close enough to feel it, creating ripples of calm and healing that spread far beyond the cat themselves. It's a frequency that heals the one who produces it and the one who receives it, a gift from evolution that keeps on giving, moment by moment, purr by purr, throughout the intertwined lives of cats and the humans who love them. There's a particular sound that anyone who lives with a cat will recognize instantly. It's a purr, yes, but a purr with something extra woven into it, something that cuts through sleep, that interrupts concentration, that seems to reach directly into your brain and demand attention. This is the solicitation purr, and it represents one of the most sophisticated uses of purring that cats have developed. It's purring with intent, purring as a tool not just for self-care or communication of emotional state, but for deliberate manipulation of human behavior. And it works remarkably well. The solicitation purr contains within it a high-pitched cry, a vocal element embedded in the normal rumble of purring. The cat is producing two sounds simultaneously, the low-frequency purr we've been discussing and a higher-frequency cry that rides along with it. These cries typically fall in the range of 300 to 600 Hertz, much higher than the purr itself, and they're produced by a different mechanism, actual vocalization through the vocal cords rather than the rhythmic glottal vibrations of purring. The combination creates something unique, a sound that's part purr and part cry, familiar yet urgent, comforting yet impossible to ignore. What makes this particularly clever is that these embedded cries share acoustic properties with human infant cries. They occupy similar frequency ranges, they have similar patterns of modulation, they trigger similar responses in the human brain. This isn't coincidence. Cats have essentially learned to exploit the nurturing instincts that humans evolved for caring for their own offspring. When a human hears an infant cry, their nervous system responds with a sense of urgency, a need to address whatever distress the infant is experiencing. It's a hardwired response, one that helped ensure human babies received the care they needed to survive. Cats have tapped into this same response system, producing sounds that trigger those ancient nurturing circuits even though the source is a cat, not a human infant. The result is that humans perceive solicitation purrs as urgent or unpleasant in a way that normal purrs are not. A content purr is soothing, something we seek out and enjoy. A solicitation purr is irritating, something we want to stop. And the way to stop it, as the cat has learned, is to give them what they want. Usually food, but sometimes attention, access to a closed room, or some other resource they're seeking. The unpleasant quality of the sound motivates us to take action, and when we do, the solicitation purr typically stops, replaced either by silence or by a regular, contented purr. The cat has achieved their goal through acoustic manipulation, and we've been trained to respond even if we don't consciously realize what's happening. This behavior is a retention of kitten communication strategies into adulthood. Young kittens crying for food or care from their mother produce sounds similar to these embedded cries. Most wild adult cats abandon these kitten vocalizations as they mature, becoming largely silent except during mating season or territorial disputes. But domestic cats living with humans have learned that keeping some kitten-like communication strategies active throughout life serves them well. Humans respond to cats who sound somewhat like kittens, who trigger those caretaking instincts. So adult cats continue to produce these cries, particularly in the context of food solicitation, combining them with purring to create a sound that's both familiar and impossible to ignore. Cats don't just produce solicitation purrs automatically whenever they are hungry. They consciously modulate their purring, increasing volume and adding those high-frequency components specifically when they're trying to get human attention. The same cat might purr quietly and contentedly when resting alone, but when they want breakfast and you're still in bed, the purr becomes louder, more insistent, and acquires that cry-like quality that cuts through sleep and demands acknowledgement. This demonstrates a level of vocal control and understanding of cause and effect that speaks to feline intelligence. The cat knows that different purr types produce different responses, and they deploy the appropriate type for their current needs. This solicitation behavior appears more frequently and more intensely in cats who have close bonds with humans. A semiferal cat or a cat with minimal human interaction is less likely to develop sophisticated solicitation purrs. But a cat who lives intimately with people, who depends on them for food and care, who has learned through years of interaction what works and what doesn't, that cat becomes a master of the solicitation purr. They've had more opportunities to refine the behavior, to learn exactly which frequencies and volumes trigger the fastest human response. The bond between cat and human isn't just emotional. It's also a training ground where both parties learn to understand and influence each other's behavior. The tone of a cat's purr shifts depending on their emotional need in the moment. A cat seeking food produces a different purr than a cat seeking comfort after a fright. A cat who wants to go outside produces a different purr than a cat who wants to be petted. These differences are often subtle, hard to describe in words, but humans who live with cats learn to distinguish between them. You might not be able to explain exactly how you know your cat is asking for food versus asking for attention, but you know. The cat is encoding different messages in subtle variations of frequency, rhythm, and intensity, and you've learned to decode those messages through long association. Perhaps most remarkably, cats appear to customize their purrs for different people. Research has shown that cats may use slightly different purr types with different family members, adjusting their communication style based on what works best with each individual. A purr that effectively motivates one person to provide food might not work as well on another person. So the cat develops variations, personal dialects of purr directed at specific humans. This suggests a sophisticated understanding not just of purring as communication, but of individual humans as different audiences requiring different approaches. Your cat isn't just purring at humans in general. They're purring at you specifically, in a way they've learned works with you. Acoustic analysis reveals clear differences between solicitation purrs and content purrs. Beyond the obvious presence of high-frequency cries in solicitation purrs, there are differences in the fundamental purr itself. Solicitation purrs tend to be slightly louder, with more variability in their rhythm and frequency. Content purrs are more stable, more regular, that steady rumble we associate with a deeply relaxed cat. The solicitation purr has an irregular quality to it, a sense of agitation or urgency that's present even in the purr component before you factor in the embedded cries. These acoustic signatures can be measured and quantified, proving that what humans perceive as different types of purrs really are objectively different sounds, not just the same sound interpreted differently based on context. This sophisticated use of purring reveals cats as more communicatively complex than we sometimes give them credit for. They're not just making sounds reflexively based on emotional state. They're crafting specific acoustic signals designed to produce specific responses in their audience. They're learning from experience what works and what doesn't. They're adjusting their communication strategies based on who they're talking to and what they're trying to achieve. The solicitation purr is, in essence, a tool cats have developed specifically for life with humans, a way of bridging the communication gap between species by exploiting shared mammalian psychology. It's manipulation, certainly, but it's also evidence of remarkable adaptability and intelligence. The cat who wakes you at dawn with an urgent, cry-embedded purr isn't just expressing hunger. They're deploying a carefully crafted communication strategy they've refined over years of living with you. A strategy that works because they've learned to speak, at least partially, in your evolutionary language. And when you stumble to the kitchen and fill their bowl, you're responding not just to the cat's need but to the profound effectiveness of that healing frequency turned toward persuasion, that ancient purr repurposed for the modern relationship between human and cat. If you've spent time around multiple cats, you've likely noticed something that might seem surprising at first. Not all cats purr the same way. Some cats are constant purrers, rumbling away at the slightest provocation, filling the air with that familiar vibration whenever they're awake and reasonably content. Others are more reserved with their purrs, saving them for special moments, for particularly intense emotions or specific situations. And then there are cats who seem almost never to purr at all, cats who might go days or weeks without producing that sound, leading their humans to wonder if something is wrong, if the cat is unhappy, if perhaps this particular cat simply can't purr. The truth is that individual variation in vocalization among cats is enormous. Just as humans vary in how talkative they are, how expressive with their voices, how much they use speech versus other forms of communication, cats exist along a similar spectrum. Some cats are naturally more vocal across all their sound types. They meow frequently, they trill, they chirp, and yes, they purr abundantly. Other cats are quieter by nature, more reserved, less inclined to use sound as their primary means of expression. These quiet cats might communicate more through body language, through subtle movements of ears and tail, through the intensity of their gaze. Their rare purrs, when they do occur, might carry more weight precisely because they're unusual, reserved for moments of genuine significance. There are cats who rarely purr, and even cats who appear never to purr at all. This doesn't necessarily indicate a problem or unhappiness. Some cats simply don't seem to have purring as a major part of their behavioral repertoire. They might have learned early in life that other communication strategies worked better for them, or they might have a temperament that doesn't lend itself to frequent purring, or there might be subtle anatomical variations that make purring less satisfying or effective for them. These non-purring or rarely purring cats can be perfectly healthy, perfectly bonded to their humans, perfectly content with their lives. They've just chosen, in whatever way cats make such choices, to express themselves differently. Interestingly, blind cats often purr louder than their sighted counterparts. This makes sense when you consider that purring isn't just about sound. It's also about vibration, and vibration can provide sensory information about the environment. A blind cat using purring to sense vibrations is, in a way, using echolocation, feeling how the vibrations they produce travel through their body and through surfaces they're in contact with. A louder purr creates stronger vibrations, more distinct feedback, better information about the physical world. These cats may have learned to amplify their purrs not for communication but for navigation, for understanding their spatial relationship to the world around them when visual information isn't available. Indoor cats, particularly those who live exclusively indoors and have extensive daily contact with humans, often develop more complex purr patterns than outdoor or feral cats. This makes sense from an evolutionary and learning perspective. These cats have more reason to communicate with humans, more opportunities to refine their vocalizations, more time to experiment with different sounds and observe which ones produce desired responses. An outdoor cat might need only basic purring for self-soothing and occasional social bonding with other cats. An indoor cat benefits from developing a richer purring vocabulary, different purrs for different situations, nuanced communications that help them navigate the complexities of indoor domestic life. Some cats develop purring routines, purring at fixed times each day almost like clockwork. You might have a cat who purrs every morning when they first see you, or every evening at a particular time when dinner approaches, or every night when you settle into bed. These routine purrs can become so predictable that you can almost set your watch by them. They represent learned patterns, associations the cat has made between certain times, certain situations, and the effectiveness of purring in those contexts. The morning purr that reliably leads to breakfast becomes a fixed part of the cat's behavioral schedule, repeated day after day because it consistently works. There are situations where cats reliably stop purring, and one of the most common is when they hear running water. Many cats will be purring contentedly, then you turn on a faucet in another room, and the purr cuts off instantly. The reason isn't entirely clear, but it likely has to do with attention and sensory processing. The sound of running water is significant to cats. It might represent a drinking opportunity, or it might trigger prey-related attention since small prey animals often live near water sources. Whatever the reason, the sound seems to override the purring behavior, shifting the cat's focus entirely to this new auditory stimulus. The purr can usually be restarted easily once the water stops or the cat loses interest in the sound, but that momentary interruption is remarkably consistent across many cats. Purring patterns change as cats age, though not always in predictable ways. Some cats become more frequent purrers in their senior years, as if they fully embrace this form of communication and self-soothing after a lifetime of practice. Other cats purr less as they age, perhaps due to reduced energy, changes in social behavior, or simply different priorities in their later years. Some elderly cats develop new purr characteristics, their purrs becoming rougher or softer, faster or slower, as anatomical changes affect the structures involved in purr production. These age-related changes are part of the natural evolution of individual cats, their communication styles adapting along with their bodies and personalities over the years. The length of a purring episode varies significantly with emotional state. A cat in mild contentment might purr for 30 seconds or a minute before stopping. A cat in deeper satisfaction might purr for 5, 10, 15 minutes continuously. A cat using purring for self-soothing during stress might purr in shorter bursts, on and off, as they work through their anxiety. A cat at the vet might purr continuously for the entire visit, that desperate self-soothing purr we discussed earlier. There's no standard purr length because the purpose and intensity of the purr changes from situation to situation. The cat adjusts the duration to match their needs in the moment, purring as long as serves whatever function they're using it for. Perhaps most fascinatingly, some cats use purring strategically, almost like a tool they consciously deploy to achieve specific goals. These are the cats who seem to understand cause and effect particularly well, who have figured out that purring produces responses in humans that can be advantageous. They might not purr much in general, but when they want something specific, out comes the purr. They might save their loudest, most solicitation-heavy purrs for times when humans are most susceptible, early morning or late at night. They might purr intensely when first greeting their human after an absence, leveraging that healing frequency to reinforce the bond and ensure continued good treatment. These strategically purring cats reveal just how sophisticated feline communication can become when cats have both the cognitive capacity and the motivation to refine their behaviors for maximum effectiveness. Understanding this individual variation in purring reminds us that cats, like humans, are individuals with their own personalities, preferences, and communication styles. The healing frequency manifests differently in different cats, shaped by genetics, by early life experiences, by learning, by personality, by the specific relationships each cat develops with the beings around them. There's no single right way for a cat to purr, no standard against which all cats should be measured. Some purr constantly, some rarely, some strategically, some on schedule, some loudly, some almost silently. Each cat finds their own relationship with this remarkable behavior, using it in ways that make sense for their particular life, their particular needs, their particular way of being in the world. The purr remains the same fundamental behavior across all cats, that ancient vibration emerging from the larynx. But the uses to which it's put, the frequency of its appearance, the contexts in which it emerges, these are as varied as cats themselves, as individual as the personalities behind those rhythmic rumbles, as unique as each healing frequency resonating through each unique feline life. Purring isn't unique to the domestic cats who share our homes. This behavior extends across the feline family tree, appearing in species wild and domestic, large and small, familiar and exotic. When we think about purring, we naturally think about house cats, about that tabby on the couch or that Siamese curled in bed. But step into the wider world of felids, the biological family that encompasses all cats, and you'll find purring everywhere, from the smallest wildcats to some surprisingly large predators. The healing frequency isn't just a feature of domestication. It's an ancient feline inheritance, passed down through millions of years of evolution, present in cats who've never seen a human and cats who depend on them entirely. Among the purring cats, cheetahs hold a special distinction. They're the largest cats capable of producing that continuous, breath cycle-independent purr we've been exploring. An adult cheetah can weigh over 100 pounds, can run faster than any other land animal, can bring down prey much larger than themselves. And yet, despite this size and power, despite being apex predators of the African savanna, they purr. It's a remarkable thing to witness if you ever have the opportunity. This big, powerful cat producing the same basic sound as the 10-pound tabby sleeping on your bed at home. The mechanism is the same. The larynx, the neural oscillator, the rapid vibration of the glottis, all working exactly as they do in domestic cats, just scaled up in a larger body. Cheetahs are also notably social for big cats. While many large felines are solitary, coming together only to mate, cheetahs often live in small groups, particularly male coalitions who hunt and rest together. And within these groups, purring serves important social functions. Cheetahs purr while grooming each other, while resting in close contact, while engaging in the kinds of bonding behaviors that maintain group cohesion. The purr facilitates the same kind of social connection in cheetah groups that it does between domestic cats and humans, creating a sonic environment of mutual reassurance and affiliation. It's a reminder that purring, while it serves individual self-soothing functions, is fundamentally also a social behavior, a way of maintaining bonds between individuals who benefit from staying connected. The frequency of cheetah purrs differs slightly from domestic cat purrs. Cheetahs tend to purr at slightly lower frequencies, which makes sense given their larger size. The laryngeal structures are bigger, the vibrations travel through more mass, and the resulting sound drops a bit lower in pitch. But the difference isn't dramatic. A cheetah purr and a domestic cat purr are recognizably the same behavior, producing sounds in overlapping frequency ranges. If you heard them without seeing the source, you might not immediately know which was which, though the cheetah's purr would likely sound deeper, more resonant, the purr of a much larger animal but still unmistakably a purr. Juvenile cheetahs purr much like adults, starting the behavior early in life just as domestic kittens do. A cheetah cub nursing from its mother purrs, signaling location and contentment just as a house kitten would. As they grow, as they learn to hunt and eventually leave their mother or form coalitions with their siblings, the purr remains part of their behavioral toolkit. It continues to serve them throughout life, for self-soothing, for social bonding, for all the functions purring serves in any cat. The healing frequency crosses the boundary between domestic and wild, between small and large, uniting all purring cats in this shared inheritance. Snow leopards present an interesting case in the science of purring. These magnificent cats, adapted for life in the harsh mountains of Central Asia, possess what's called partial hyoid ossification. The hyoid is a small bone structure in the throat that supports the tongue and larynx. In most purring cats, this bone is fully hardened, fully ossified. In roaring cats, which we'll discuss in a moment, it's flexible, with sections of cartilage that allow for the anatomical configurations needed for roaring. Snow leopards fall somewhere in between. Their hyoid is more ossified than that of roaring cats but not quite as rigid as in other purring cats. For years, this anatomical ambiguity led scientists to debate whether snow leopards could purr. The answer, we now know, is yes. They can and do purr, though their partially ossified hyoid might affect exactly how their purr sounds or feels. They're a bridge species in a way, showing us the anatomical boundary between two different feline vocalization strategies. And here we arrive at one of the most fundamental divisions in the cat family. No cat species can both purr continuously and roar. You get one or the other, never both. The anatomical requirements for the two behaviors are mutually exclusive. Purring requires that rigid, fully ossified hyoid bone structure and the specific laryngeal arrangement that allows for continuous vibration across both inhale and exhale. Roaring requires a flexible hyoid with cartilaginous sections and a different laryngeal configuration that allows for the production of those deep, carrying vocalizations that can be heard for miles. Evolution provided cats with two different solutions for vocal communication, and individual species ended up with one or the other based on their evolutionary path, their ecological niche, their particular survival needs. The roaring cats, the big cats in the genus Panthera, including lions, tigers, leopards, and jaguars, lack the ability to produce continuous purring. They can make sounds that resemble purring in some ways, sounds that involve vibration and a rumbling quality, but these sounds are produced only on the exhale. They're technically called pruston or chuffing in some species, and while they may serve similar social functions to purring, they're not the same behavior. A lion cannot purr the way a house cat or a cheetah purrs. They cannot maintain that vibration across their breathing cycle. Their anatomy doesn't allow for it. In exchange, they gain the ability to roar, to produce vocalizations that project across vast distances, that announce their presence to rivals and potential mates, that serve the needs of animals who maintain large territories and need long-distance communication. Tigers, the largest of all cats, can produce exhale-only sounds that somewhat resemble purring, particularly when they're content or greeting another tiger they're bonded with. These sounds serve similar social functions, expressing non-aggression, promoting bonding, creating acoustic environments of reassurance. But they're not purrs in the technical sense. They're distinct vocalizations that evolved separately, perhaps to fill a similar communicative niche in species that lost true purring when their ancestors developed the ability to roar. It's a case of convergent function, different anatomical solutions producing somewhat similar results for similar purposes. On the other side of this evolutionary divide, we find cats like bobcats. These medium-sized North American wildcats are purring cats, not roaring cats. A bobcat can purr continuously, using the same mechanism as domestic cats and cheetahs, producing that breath-independent vibration through their larynx. But they cannot roar. They can hiss, they can yowl, they can make various other vocalizations, some quite loud and impressive. But they cannot produce a true roar, that low-frequency, high-amplitude vocalization that carries for miles. They're on the purring side of the feline family tree, and they bear all the anatomical markers of that lineage. This division in the cat family reminds us that purring is truly ancient, that it existed in the common ancestor of many modern cat species before those species diverged and went their separate evolutionary ways. Some lineages kept the purr and refined it, developing it into the sophisticated behavior we see in domestic cats and cheetahs and bobcats. Other lineages traded it for something else, for the ability to roar, accepting the loss of continuous purring as the price for gaining long-distance vocal communication. Both strategies work. Both have allowed different cat species to thrive in their respective niches. But the purring cats, from the smallest wildcat to the swift cheetah, share something special. They share that healing frequency, that ancient vibration that connects them not just to each other but back through time to the earliest cats, to the origins of this remarkable family of predators who learned to use sound and vibration for survival, for healing, for connection. The purr echoes through the cat family tree, a reminder that some innovations are so useful, so fundamentally beneficial, that evolution preserves them across millions of years and dozens of species, each one carrying forward that gift of vibration, that healing frequency that began so long ago and continues in every purring cat alive today. The story of purring is written in bone, specifically in a small, delicate structure called the hyoid. This horseshoe-shaped bone sits in the throat, suspended by ligaments and muscles, supporting the tongue and larynx. It's not large, not particularly impressive to look at, but the nature of this bone, whether it's rigid or flexible, fully ossified or partially cartilaginous, determines something fundamental about what sounds a cat can make. In purring cats, the hyoid bone is rigid, completely hardened, providing a stable framework that allows for the rapid, continuous vibrations of the larynx that create purring. Every vibration, dozens per second, happens against the stability this rigid bone provides. It's the foundation upon which the purr is built. In roaring cats, the hyoid takes a different form. Sections of it remain flexible, contain cartilage rather than solid bone. This flexibility allows the larynx and associated structures to move in ways that rigid hyoids don't permit, to configure themselves into the shapes necessary for producing roars. The trade-off is clear. Flexibility for volume and projection, rigidity for continuous vibration. The hyoid bone, in its two different forms, represents one of evolution's either-or decisions. The cat family split along this anatomical line, some species developing down the purring path, others down the roaring path, the structure of this single bone determining which acoustic strategy each species would employ. But nature, as always, resists our neat categories. Some species blur the anatomical distinction, existing in gray areas that challenge our understanding of what separates purring from roaring cats. Snow leopards, as we mentioned, have partially ossified hyoids that are neither fully rigid nor fully flexible. Other species show similar intermediate characteristics, suggesting that the purring-roaring divide, while real, isn't as absolute as it might first appear. Evolution experiments produces variations, and some of those variations end up straddling the boundaries we try to draw. These borderline cases teach us that biological categories are often more like spectrums than like walls, with transition zones where characteristics blend and overlap. And then, remarkably, we discover that purring extends beyond cats entirely. Hyenas, those often misunderstood carnivores of Africa and Asia, produce true purrs. This is startling because hyenas aren't cats at all. They're more closely related to mongooses and civets, members of a completely different carnivore family. Yet they purr, using mechanisms similar to those cats use, producing that same continuous vibration across inhale and exhale. This is a case of convergent evolution, where two unrelated lineages independently develop similar solutions to similar problems. Hyenas, like cats, benefit from having a vocalization that supports social bonding, self-soothing, and possibly healing. Evolution provided them with purring, not because they inherited it from a common purring ancestor with cats, but because purring proved useful enough that it evolved separately in their lineage. Genets, small carnivores native to Africa and Europe, also purr despite not being felids. These cat-like animals, with their spotted coats and long tails, look somewhat feline but belong to their own family, Viveridae. Yet they've developed purring, producing sounds remarkably similar to cat purrs for similar purposes. Social bonding within genet groups, mother-offspring communication, self-soothing during rest, all the functions purring serves in cats appear to be served by purring in genets as well. The fact that such similar behavior evolved in separate carnivore families suggests that purring represents a particularly effective solution to certain common challenges faced by small to medium-sized carnivores, effective enough that evolution discovered it multiple times independently. Mongooses present an interesting case. These small carnivores, related to hyenas and civets, make sounds that resemble purrs in some ways. They produce vibrating, rumbling vocalizations during social interactions and rest. But closer examination reveals these sounds are acoustically distinct from true purrs. The mechanism of production differs, the frequency characteristics differ, the continuity across breathing cycles may differ. They're purr-like, serving similar functions, occupying a similar acoustic niche, but they're not quite the same thing. It's as if evolution was working toward purring in mongooses but arrived at a slightly different solution, something that serves similar purposes but through different means. Even more surprising is finding purr-like sounds in animals far removed from carnivores. Kangaroos and wallabies, those iconic marsupials of Australia, vocalize sounds that have purr-like qualities. These are low-frequency rumbles, often produced during social bonding or contentment, that bear some resemblance to purring. The mechanisms involved are certainly different. The anatomy is completely different, but the functional outcome, a low-frequency vibrating vocalization associated with positive social contexts, shows up again. It's another example of convergent evolution, of different lineages independently discovering that low-frequency vibrations serve useful communicative and possibly physiological purposes. Badgers emit sounds during rest and social bonding that observers describe as purr-like. Rabbits, when content, produce a sound often called purring, though it's made by grinding their teeth together rather than through laryngeal vibration. These examples accumulate, showing us that across the mammal family tree, in lineages separated by millions of years of evolution, something like purring keeps emerging. The exact mechanism varies. The specific acoustic properties differ. But the basic concept, a low-frequency vibrating sound associated with contentment, bonding, and possibly self-soothing, appears again and again. This suggests that purring, or something functionally equivalent to it, represents a fundamental solution to basic mammalian needs for communication and self-regulation. Perhaps most remarkably, we find true purring in primates. The Cicada tai monkey, a small primate native to South American rainforests, produces what researchers have identified as a true purr. This isn't just a purr-like sound or an approximation. According to acoustic analysis, it's actual purring, produced through mechanisms similar to those in cats, with similar frequency characteristics and similar continuity across breathing cycles. These monkeys purr during grooming, during rest, during social bonding with mates and offspring. The function appears virtually identical to purring in cats, serving to maintain social bonds and promote group cohesion. Finding true purring in primates, in animals so distant from cats evolutionarily, is profound. It suggests that the benefits of purring are so significant that evolution has converged on this solution multiple times across vastly different mammalian lineages. What does all this tell us about purring? It tells us that this behavior, which seems so specifically feline when we encounter it in our house cats, is actually something much more universal. The healing frequency isn't unique to cats, though cats may have refined it to its highest form. It's a solution that evolution has discovered repeatedly, in different times, in different places, in different lineages, because it solves real problems effectively. The need for low-energy communication that maintains social bonds, the utility of self-soothing mechanisms that don't require external resources, the possible physiological benefits of low-frequency vibration on tissue health and bone density, these are needs and benefits that extend across many species. Purring, in its various forms, addresses all of them. The rigid hyoid bone of purring cats enables their particular version of this behavior, their continuous breath-independent purr that serves them so well. But the absence of that specific anatomy doesn't prevent other animals from developing similar solutions. Hyenas found their way to purring. Genets found their way to purring. Cicada titi monkeys found their way to purring. Each species, working with its own anatomical toolkit, its own evolutionary history, its own ecological pressures, arrived at something functionally equivalent because the benefits made the journey worthwhile. The purr your cat produces, emerging from that rigid hyoid bone and rapidly vibrating larynx, is part of a much larger story. A story of how evolution repeatedly discovers that certain frequencies, certain vibrations, certain sounds serve life well. The healing frequency resonates not just through the cat family but through the broader mammalian world, a testament to the power of vibration, of sound, of communication strategies that benefit both the producer and the receiver. Your cat's purr connects them not just to their feline relatives but to this wider community of purring and purr-like animals, all of them having discovered in their own ways that sometimes the best communication is felt as much as heard, that sometimes healing comes not from movement but from gentle, continuous vibration, that sometimes the most profound connections are built on nothing more than a shared frequency humming in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. The relationship between humans and cats stretches back thousands of years, deep into the mists of prehistory, to times when the first wildcats began venturing closer to human settlements, drawn by the mice and rats that thrived on stored grain. But this practical arrangement, pest control in exchange for easy hunting, doesn't fully explain the bond that developed. There were other predators who could catch mice. There were other animals who could have filled that ecological niche around human habitations. Yet it was cats who became companions, who moved from the granaries into the homes, who eventually spread across the world alongside humans. And purring, that healing frequency, may have been one of the key reasons why. Ancient Egypt recognized something special in cats, elevating them to sacred status, associating them with divinity. The goddess Bastet, one of the most important deities in the Egyptian pantheon, was depicted with a cat's head or sometimes as a full cat. She represented protection, fertility, motherhood, and notably, healing. The Egyptians linked cat purring directly to Bastet, seeing in that gentle vibration a manifestation of divine healing power. When a cat purred, they believed the goddess's healing energy was flowing through the animal and into the world. This wasn't just poetic metaphor. The Egyptians observed that cats purred during rest and recovery, that they purred when injured, that being near a purring cat seemed to have calming effects on humans. They encoded these observations in their religious and cultural frameworks, making purring a sacred sound, a connection between earthly and divine realms. Far to the north, in the cold lands of Scandinavia, Norse mythology told of giant cats, powerful creatures large enough to pull the chariot of the goddess Freyja. These weren't ordinary cats but mythological beings, yet the myths described them as purring, producing deep rumbling sounds that shook the ground. The Norse, like the Egyptians, recognized purring as a significant feline characteristic, important enough to include in their sacred stories. These giant purring cats represented power combined with domesticity, wildness combined with accessibility, the paradox of an animal that could be both fierce and gentle, both independent and bonded. The purr, even amplified to mythological proportions, remained central to how these cultures understood what made cats distinctive. Across many cultures, historically and in various geographical regions, cats have symbolized healing vibrations. Chinese traditional medicine recognized cats as animals associated with balance and health. European folklore often portrayed cats as having mysterious healing powers, able to sense illness, to provide comfort to the sick. These weren't random associations. They reflected observed reality. People noticed that sick family members often felt better when a cat lay with them, purring steadily. They noticed that their own stress and anxiety decreased in the presence of purring cats. They noticed that cats themselves seemed to heal remarkably well from injuries, purring throughout their recovery. Without understanding the mechanisms, without knowing about endorphins or bone density or the physiological effects of low-frequency vibration, humans across different cultures observed that purring was connected to healing and encoded that observation in their cultural knowledge. These cultural myths and beliefs, far from being mere superstition, reflect genuine observed calming effects. When ancient people said that cat purring had healing power, they were describing real experiences. Modern science has now provided explanations for what ancient cultures knew empirically. The stress reduction, the blood pressure lowering, the sense of peace that comes from being with a purring cat, these are measurable phenomena. Our ancestors felt these effects without being able to measure or explain them, and they did what humans do with important observations that lack scientific explanation. They mythologized them, sacralized them, built them into cultural and religious frameworks that ensured the knowledge would be preserved and passed down. The goddess Bastet and Freyja's giant cats were ways of saying something true and important, that purring matters, that it affects us, that this sound and vibration from these animals has power. Purring almost certainly played a role in reinforcing the early bonds between humans and cats. Imagine you're a human living 10,000 years ago. Wild cats have started appearing around your settlement, hunting the rodents that infest your grain stores. You tolerate them because they're useful. But then one day, one of these cats approaches closer than usual. Perhaps they're injured, perhaps they're just bolder than their fellows. You reach out cautiously, and the cat doesn't flee. Instead, they settle near you, and they begin to purr. You feel the vibration. You hear that gentle rumble. And something in you responds. Your stress from the day's labors eases. Your breathing slows. You feel calmer, more peaceful. You want this feeling again. You encourage this cat to stay. You share food. You provide shelter. The cat, receiving these benefits, purrs more. The bond strengthens. Over generations, this dynamic repeats. The cats who purr more readily around humans, who use their purr to create these bonds, are more successful. They receive more resources, more protection. They reproduce more successfully. Purring becomes, in essence, a domestication tool, a behavior that facilitates the transition from wild to domestic. This contributed significantly to the success of cat domestication overall. Dogs were domesticated for work, for hunting and guarding and herding. Their domestication made practical sense in obvious ways. Cat domestication is more puzzling if we only consider practical utility. Yes, they catch mice, but so do many animals. What made cats special was perhaps this emotional connection, this bond facilitated by purring. Humans didn't just tolerate cats. They grew to love them, to seek their company, to want them in their homes and lives. Purring created a positive feedback loop where both species benefited, where the relationship became not just practical but deeply emotional and satisfying for humans in ways that ensured cats would be welcomed, protected, spread around the world. Over the millennia of this relationship, humans may have evolved increased sensitivity to purr cues. Just as we evolved acute sensitivity to baby cries, ensuring we'd respond quickly to infant needs, we may have developed enhanced sensitivity to purring. Those humans who responded more strongly to purring, who formed stronger bonds with purring cats, may have experienced benefits: reduction in stress leading to better health, companionship reducing isolation, the presence of cats in homes reducing rodent-borne diseases. These benefits, even if marginal, could have created selection pressure favoring humans who were more attuned to and affected by purring. Over thousands of years, this could have shaped human neurology, making us a species particularly responsive to this specific frequency, this specific type of sound and vibration. Today, purring remains one of the most powerful interspecies signals in existence. It's a form of communication that crosses the species boundary more effectively than almost any other. We can't speak cat language. Cats can't speak human language. But purring transcends language. It communicates directly to our nervous systems, triggering responses that feel instinctive, that bypass our cognitive processing and reach straight into our emotional and physiological reactions. When a cat purrs at you, you don't need to interpret or decode. You feel it. You know what it means at some level deeper than words. This directness, this ability to communicate across the species divide so effectively, is rare in nature. It's a bridge that evolution has built between two very different types of animals, a bridge made of vibration and sound. Purring bridges communication between species in ways that benefit both. The cat communicates their state, their needs, their openness to connection. The human receives information and experiences effects that make them want to maintain the relationship. Both parties benefit from the exchange. The cat receives care, resources, protection. The human receives companionship, stress relief, the satisfaction of caring for another being. The purr facilitates all of it, making the relationship possible, sustainable, mutually rewarding. It's a remarkable example of how evolution can create connections between species, how behaviors that benefit both parties can be maintained and strengthened across thousands of generations. And so the purr persists, millennia after that first wildcat approached that first human, as one of nature's most efficient signals. It requires minimal energy to produce. It carries information effectively. It creates emotional bonds. It may promote physical healing. It serves multiple functions simultaneously: communication and self-care, social bonding and health maintenance. Few behaviors in nature do so much with so little, achieve so many different goals through such simple means. The purr that your cat produces today is the same fundamental behavior that ancient Egyptian cats produced, that the first domesticated cats produced, that their wild ancestors produced. It has remained essentially unchanged because it works, because it's so effective at what it does that evolution has found no reason to alter it. That healing frequency continues to resonate through the relationship between humans and cats. Every time your cat settles into your lap and begins to purr, you're experiencing something ancient, something that has connected our two species for thousands of years. You're feeling vibrations that have been felt by countless humans before you, that have built bonds across millennia, that have shaped both our species and theirs. The purr is a gift from evolution, offered to cats for their benefit but shared with us, a frequency that heals both the one who produces it and the one who receives it, a sound that speaks of contentment and need, of health and connection, of the strange and wonderful relationship between a human and a cat, built on nothing more than trust, care, and that gentle rumble vibrating between heartbeats. That healing frequency that asks nothing more than to be felt and heard, that gives so much in return, that persists as evidence that sometimes the simplest things, a vibration, a sound, a moment of shared peace, are also the most profound, the most lasting, the most essential to what makes life, for both cats and humans, worth living together.